In this chapter, we are going to enter the fascinating world of CSS, explore its structure, learn its most important properties, and become familiar with it. We will bring a kind of life to our HTML documents. As we've worked with HTML in previous sessions, you notice that HTML elements without CSS are not very interactive. In fact, an HTML document without CSS has no meaning and it's not visually pleasing. That's why it's essential to learn CSS well so that you can create a web page with a beautiful UI. Let's explore and see how many ways we can use CSS in an HTML document. There are three methods that I'll explain to you. These methods are external, internal, and inline. Imagine we have a p tag containing some text using lorem. We have a paragraph tag as you see in the output. We want to style this p tag. Or better yet, we can first consider a div tag and then place the p tag inside it. Let's use this setup. For styling, the first method is inline. It means you can style any tag or element in the body tag directly, like the p and div tags. As I explained in the HTML session, each tag can have one or more attributes. One of the attributes that all tags can have is the style attribute. In the style attribute, you can write your CSS and apply it to, for example, this p tag. You can actually use CSS properties, like what? Like color or background. These are called properties. In CSS, we have many properties, and in this chapter, we will cover the most important ones. For example, properties like color, background, padding, opacity, margin, display, and many others that exist in CSS and are used for styling. This syntax for writing CSS styles is like this. First, write the property name, then a colon, and then the value you want for the property, for example, red. And at the end of each property, you must use a semicolon to separate multiple properties. Now I've said that the p tag should be red. You can see that I wrote the CSS inline style for the p tag and applied it. Inline CSS means you can write styles for each tag individually. Here you see that the paragraph text has turned red, or you can style the div tag and specify its background color, for example, yellow. The entire div tag now has a yellow background, so this is how you can apply your CSS styles. Also, as I mentioned, at the end of each property, you write in the style attribute, use a semicolon. Then you can add another property. For example, I'll use the padding property in CSS and specify 10 pixels padding. The div tag will get padding. Padding refers to the inner spacing of an element from its edges. You can see that the p tag now has 10 pixels padding from the edges. That was one method. Now I'll remove the styles and introduce another method for styling the div and p tags again. The next method is to use the style tag inside the head tag. This style tag applies to your desired elements. This is another method to use CSS in an HTML document. Here, you need to specify which tag your CSS applies to. That's you must select the tag. In CSS, we have something called selectors, which we will explore in more detail later. With selectors, you can choose the tag you want to style and write your desired properties to apply them. For instance, in CSS, we can select our desired tags using their name. After selecting a tag, you use curly braces and write the CSS properties inside. For example, here I'll use the background color property and set it to yellow. At the end of every property, you must place a semicolon. Now with the selector, in this case div, I selected the div tag and said its background should be yellow. Similarly, you can select the p tag and specify that all p tags should have red text. This way, CSS applies the styling to all matching tags. You can also use CSS properties like padding or margins inside the curly braces for further customization. If I now add another div and p tag, the same styles will automatically apply to these new elements. That's because I applied CSS globally to all div and p tags. To target specific elements, we use advanced selectors or attributes like class or ID. We will learn more about this later, but for now, you should understand the basics of selectors and properties. The next method involves external style sheets, which is the most recommended practice. Instead of writing CSS inline or internal, you can write it in a separate file and link it to your HTML document. Let's create a folder named Assets and inside it, create another folder named CSS. In this folder, I'll create a new file called style.css. I'll then move all the CSS properties from the internal styles and write them into this external file. For instance, I'll set the background color for the div tag to yellow and the text color for the p tag to red. These styles now reside in style.css. To use this style sheet, I need to link it to my HTML document using the link tag. The link tag has an attribute called rel, which we set to a style sheet, and another attribute called href to specify the file path. Now, when the HTML document loads, the styles from style.css automatically apply to the elements. This method is known as the external CSS method. It's the best method for CO and maintainability. Inline styles are not recommended for most cases. Using external files keeps your HTML clear and allows for reusable styles. However, if the file path in the link tag is incorrect, your style won't apply. You will see a 404 error in the browser console. Always verify the file paths for correctness. When done correctly, the external styles apply seamlessly to your HTML document. This wraps up the third method of using CSS, which is the external method. In summary, Always use external CSS for the best results.